Hey guys, it's Monday, August 3rd, 2020, and today we are going to have a cloudy day due to hurricane slash tropical storm Isaias, and they are, it's not projected to do much, probably bounce off the coast, maybe a little bit of wind damage, maybe a little bit of local flooding, but inland I think we're all good unless we get one of these random tornadoes or wind shears or something from a band. But anyway, we should be good today. But this morning I was thinking something that I've been thinking since about this time yesterday morning. It's about something we used to do when I worked with Clemson, and I used to train a lot of employees to do different activities at our camp. And I didn't do a ton of training. I wasn't really designed as the trainer. I didn't have the knowledge of some of the folks that have been there a while. One thing we did teach our guys in whatever we did, whether it was teams course or ropes or most every activity, that we required them to process that activity after we were done with the group or with the individual, just so you could process it and see maybe how you could, how it could apply to life, how you can make things better, how you could, work better as a group, maybe communication skills, whatever it is, you can focus on whatever you want to focus on and process so the kids can learn something from that particular activity. Yesterday, when I was going to church, I've been processing this a few times in my head. Yesterday I was going to church. I had as I was approaching, I was turning on Wildwood Lane. I had about 1.5 miles to go to church. And of course, you know me, I drive the speed limit or a few miles per hour less. And there was no cars behind me when I first entered Wildwood Lane. By the time I got about 1 mile down the road, there were already 3 cars behind me. So even though I was going the speed limit, obviously the 3 cars behind me were in excess of the speed limit and it caught up with me. But as I got close to the church, maybe 1/4 mile, 1/8 of a mile, there's a curve that kind of goes down a hill. And in the distance, I could see somebody riding their bicycle. And as I approached him, he was moving at a pretty good rate of speed, maybe 15, 20 miles an hour, going down the hill, headed toward the church. And so there are 3 cars behind me, and obviously I knew they were anxious because they had caught up to me. The bicycler in front of me, and then on way up ahead, there was somebody, approaching from the 4-way stop, maybe 1/2 mile away. I didn't pay that car much attention. What I was worried about was the bicycler, because I knew the people behind me were excited to get around me, and there was dotted lines coming up and gave them the opportunity to pass, and I didn't want to create some dilemma. So, I'm forward thinking, and I'm like, okay, you know what? This bicycler has the right of way, has the right to ride on this lane, and he has to obey the traffic laws. And so I have less than maybe about 1/8 of a mile to turn into church. Now I could go around this guy legally and then turn into church, which would create a situation where if he's coming fast enough on his bike, the other people might be trying to pass him. He could be in a sticky situation, especially with a car approaching the other way. So I chose to slow down to 15 to 20 miles per hour, give the bicycler the room he needed to get to the driveway of the church so I could turn in safely, and the cars behind me could make up their mind as to what they wanted to do. Well, as I was coming down the hill, and the bicycler was in front of me, a couple hundred feet, I don't want to scare him. The guy behind me just starts going crazy, throwing his hands up, flipping me off. And here I went ahead and cut my signal on because I was gonna, let him know that I'm turning. Well, he's still throwing his hands up, like, go around him. I'm like, yeah, but I'm about to turn, and this guy's on a bicycle, and he doesn't have a lot of, ability to get out of the way if something were to happen, and there's a lot of cars going on right here, and he'd be dead. So I'm processing all this real fast, and I'm like, you know what? I don't care about the guy behind me. I care about the guy in front of me. And so, I maintained my signal for a couple hundred yards and turned in after the bike passed the driveway safely. And I let the guy behind me choose what he wanted to do once he got to that, after I turned. But as I was kind of thinking about it, I was like, man, why is this guy so irate at me? I was like, I was trying to be safe, and immediately I slowed down, and it was at a speed that most people don't like to go, but at the same time, you got to think about others, and that's where I was processing went back and processed my train of thought and maybe what the other folks' train of thought was. And number one, there's no way they could have caught up to me without speed. So number one, I know that the three behind me were breaking the law. Well, I mean, I know people speed all the time, and I always say, people, you go 1 mile per hour, you're sinning or breaking the law, and people will argue that. I'm like, well, technically you are. So you caught up to me, so you're speeding. Number two, I was trying to be nice to a driver in front of me, and I felt like I was doing the right thing, the safe thing. I could have went around him and then turned, but then he would have had to stop. The cars behind him would have to make a decision. You know, he could have plowed into him. I don't know. He didn't have really good lighting on the bicycle, but it was daytime, and he was a true bicyclist. He wasn't like just a recreational guy just out there getting to the ABC store. So anyway, number two, I was just being nice. Number three, there's no reason to get that mad about someone who's obeying the traffic laws. I'm guilty of it. I get mad at people that do stupid stuff, but to throw your hands up, start flipping you off, especially in front of church, that's even worse, I guess. I didn't care. I don't care what other people think. But my goal was just to get us out of there safely. And, my son sitting beside me, I was trying to teach him a lesson about driving in the process. And, I didn't really say anything to him during it, but afterwards I told him why I did what I did. And he's like, oh, I didn't pay attention, Dad. I'm like, oh, of course you didn't. But, it's crazy how people are so anxious, that's not the word I'm looking for, impatient to do things, now, especially nowadays. Everybody's tense, and we need to really just kind of back off the pedal a little bit. People fly by me all the time going to work, and I know maybe you should have left 5 minutes early versus putting the pedal to the metal and trying to get there before the 8:30 bell or whatever. But I'm not really on a schedule, so to speak. I have a 9 o'clock meeting this morning, but I left 30 minutes early. So, I'm going to be there 30 minutes early. It's just things like that you should process, you should prepare for. Some people don't process what they're doing, especially biblically, from a biblical perspective. What's the right thing to do? Are we putting others before us? Once again, I'm preaching to myself just as much I'm teaching or saying this or telling my kids on this. Probably all my subscribers are just my kids. But put others first. Think about their safety as well. It'll come back, and you're gonna reap what you sow. So I have sown plenty of bad seeds with my anger and my frustrations toward people who I think are stupid, and I'm trying to do better about it. But there's so many stupid people in this world that it drives me bonkers sometimes. Anyway, just be careful and think about others and other safety. And some random thought for the day, but processing is very important in a lot of situations, and you can process things that you never thought you could process, even if it's just reprocessing what you did at church, or maybe an activity you did with your kids. We're doing volleyball on Monday nights now because we quit the YMCA because they make us wear masks. So we're doing a sand volleyball thing at church with a bunch of young kids, and I even processed it afterwards. Talked about formation and talked about things they learned, and I use key words, and those are things I'm hoping they'll sink in and stick with them. But anyway, you guys have a great Monday, and good luck with Tropical Storm Hurricane Isaias.